My name is Lena Harper, and 3 weeks before I was supposed to leave for college, I learned that the $192,000 my grandmother had saved for me was gone. Not misplaced, not invested badly. Gone. And the people who took it were my parents. I didn't find out in some dramatic confrontation. I found out on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, sitting at our kitchen counter in our small town of Briar Glen, population barely 10,000, the kind of place where neighbors wave from porches and gossip travels faster than weather. I had my laptop open, finalizing housing paperwork for North Valley University. My deposit deadline was 10 days away. Tuition was supposed to come directly from my college account, the one my grandmother had built slowly, month after month, since the day I was born. I called the bank just to confirm the wire details. The woman on the line went quiet after I gave my information. "Ms. Harper," she said carefully, "the current balance on this account is $317.42. I actually laughed. "I think you're looking at the wrong account." More silence, then typing. "There have been multiple withdrawals over the past 7 months, authorized by the custodian on file, Daniel Harper, my father." The refrigerator hummed behind me. Outside, my older brother's new SUV sat in the driveway, the one my mom had called a blessing after he moved into his new house last spring. 7 months. Withdrawals between $8,000 and $20,000 at a time, all signed by my dad. I ended the call and walked into the living room. My mom was watching one of her home renovation shows, feet tucked under her, completely relaxed. "Where is my college fund?" I asked. She muted the television and looked at me like I'd asked about the grocery list. "We used it," she said calmly. "Your brother needed help with his house." The room didn't spin. I didn't cry. I just stood there. That money was for me. She gave me a tight smile. "Families share resources. Ethan was struggling. You'll land on your feet. You always do." That was when I realized something I'd spent 18 years ignoring. In our house, there was a hierarchy. Ethan, my charming, inconsistent, forever starting over older brother, was potential. I was reliable. He dropped out of college. He wasn't challenged enough. He quit 3 jobs. They didn't value him. I made honor roll every semester, worked weekends at the bookstore, paid for my own gas. When I brought home awards, my mom would say, "That's nice, Lena," without looking up from her phone. At Thanksgiving last year, she toasted to Ethan's future empire. No one mentioned my acceptance letters. Now I knew why. I found my dad in the garage that evening. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "You signed the withdrawals?" I asked. He nodded once. "Your mom thought it was best for the family." "For Ethan," I said. He didn't correct me. Back in my bedroom, I sat on the edge of my bed staring at my phone. Tuition due in 10 days. Housing deposit non-refundable. Scholarships contingent on enrollment. Without that money, everything I'd worked for collapsed. I had $940 in my checking account. I could beg, I could stay silent, or I could make one call. At the top of my contacts list was the only person who had ever made me feel seen, Grandma June. My thumb hovered over her name, because once I told her, there would be no undoing it, and what she did next would split our family and our town straight down the middle. If you found out your future had been traded away for someone else, would you stay quiet, or would you make the call?
My grandmother answered on the second ring. "Lena, sweetheart, you don't usually call this early. Is everything all right?" I told her everything. The bank call, the balance, the withdrawals, Dad's signature, Mom's explanation. I expected shock. What I didn't expect was silence. Not confusion, not disbelief. Silence. The kind that sounds like someone calculating. "They took all of it?" she asked finally. "Yes." "And your father signed the withdrawals?" "Yes." Another pause. "Come over," she said. "Bring every letter I've ever mailed you. Every envelope. I'll make coffee." Grandma June's house sat on Cedar Lane, a white cottage with fading blue shutters and wind chimes that never stopped singing. It smelt like cinnamon and old books. She was already seated at the kitchen table when I walked in. In front of her were 3 thick folders, color-coded, labeled, organized. She adjusted her glasses and slid the first one toward me. "Open it." Inside was the original custodial account agreement. My name in bold, my father listed as custodian under the Uniform Transfers to Minors Act. dated the week I was born. The second folder held 18 years of statements, deposits ranging from $300 to $1,000 a month, birthday checks, pension contributions, investment growth. The third folder contained the most recent statement, balance, $317.42. She tapped it once. I requested copies every January, she said calmly, because I know my daughter. The words landed softly but carried weight. You thought she might do this? I hoped she wouldn't, Grandma replied. But hope isn't a financial strategy. I felt something loosen in my chest. For the first time since the bank call, I wasn't alone in the dark. Grandma, what do we do? She didn't hesitate. We call Margaret Ellis. Margaret Ellis was the most respected estate attorney in the county. Grandma had taught her high school English 25 years ago. By that afternoon, Margaret was sitting at the same kitchen table reviewing every document. She didn't sugarcoat it. This is a clear violation of fiduciary duty, she said, removing her glasses. Custodial funds under UTMA belong to the beneficiary. Using them to purchase property for someone else qualifies as misappropriation. Criminal? I asked. Yes. The word echoed louder than I expected. Grandma folded her hands. What are Lena's options? Civil suit for restitution, criminal complaint, or both? Margaret looked directly at me, not at Grandma, not at the folders. Me. This wasn't my grandmother's fight. It was mine. I thought about my mom's face when she said, "You'll figure it out. You always do." I thought about 10 days left before my deposit deadline. Both, I said. Margaret nodded once and began taking notes. But Grandma wasn't finished. After Margaret left, she picked up her phone again. Who are you calling? I asked. Claire Donnelly, Channel 6 News. My stomach dropped. Grandma, that's public. Yes, she said simply. And your mother survives on secrecy. She leaned forward. If we keep this private, she'll twist it into a misunderstanding. She'll cry at church. She'll rewrite the story. Silence protects her. I swallowed. Public truth, Grandma continued, protects you. By evening, my mom had already posted on Facebook. Please pray for our family during this misunderstanding about finances. 87 reactions in 2 hours. Prayer hands. Heart emojis. Stay strong, Diane. The narrative was forming. But Grandma had her own version ready. And unlike my mother, she had 18 years of receipts. The news crew was scheduled to arrive Wednesday morning. And once cameras rolled, there would be no putting this back into a family group chat. When the truth goes public, it doesn't just expose one person. It exposes everyone connected to them. Are you ready for what happens when the story hits the news?
The news segment aired Thursday at 6 p.m. I watched it from my grandmother's living room, sitting stiffly on the edge of the couch while she sat upright in her armchair like she was waiting for a weather report. The screen faded from commercials to the anchor's serious expression. Tonight, a Briar Glen grandmother accuses her own daughter of draining nearly $200,000 from her granddaughter's college fund. My stomach tightened. They showed footage of our town. Main Street, the courthouse clock tower, the bank on Elm Avenue. Then the camera cut to Grandma June at her kitchen table, folders neatly arranged beside her. Her voice was steady. For 18 years, I saved that money for Lena's education. It was placed in a custodial account for her benefit. It did not belong to me. It did not belong to her parents. It belonged to her. The segment lasted 4 minutes. 4 minutes was all it took. By 8 p.m., the Briar Glen community Facebook page looked like a wildfire. Hundreds of comments. People tagging each other. Parents asking questions about their own children's accounts. My former English teacher posted, I taught Lena for 4 years. She earned every opportunity she's been given. This breaks my heart. 93 likes in under 20 minutes. Then the split began. Some defended my parents. There must be more to the story. No mother would intentionally hurt her child. Others weren't so generous. That's theft. Custodial accounts aren't family piggy banks. At 8:17 p.m., my brother Ethan texted me. I just saw the news. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, came back. Mom told me the house was financed through a home equity line. I stared at the message. There was no line of credit, I typed back. It was my account. Several minutes passed before he replied. I didn't know. I believed him. He called 10 minutes later. I swear, Lena, she showed me paperwork, loan statements. I thought it was legit. Did you ever question it? I asked quietly. Silence. Then, I guess I didn't want to. The next morning, Mom posted her response. The media only tells one side. As a mother, I have always made decisions for the good of both my children. I pray for privacy and healing during this painful misunderstanding. This time the comments weren't overwhelmingly supportive. If it was for both children, why didn't Lena know? Custodial accounts are legally the child's property. I've known June Harper for 30 years. She doesn't fabricate documents. The prayer emoji slowed. By Saturday, my mom had been asked to step back from her leadership role at church. Her part-time employer at the floral shop put her on leave. Dad's electrical business started losing calls. No one announced a boycott. They just stopped dialing. Briar Glen is small. Reputation is currency. And it was draining fast. Then something unexpected happened. My former English teacher launched a fundraiser. Title, Help Lena Get to College. Goal, $25,000. It hit $25,000 in 12 hours. By the third day, it had passed $60,000. Messages poured in from strangers. I was the overlooked daughter, too. Go build your future. I didn't know whether to feel grateful or exposed. Meanwhile, the district attorney officially opened an investigation. Subpoenas were issued for bank records. Every withdrawal was under scrutiny. Margaret called us Monday morning. With the amount involved, she said, felony charges are likely. Felony. The word felt heavier now. This wasn't just a family argument anymore. It was a case file. That evening, Ethan showed up at Grandma's house unannounced. He looked exhausted. I saw the bank records, he said quietly. The paperwork Mom showed me was fake. My chest tightened. Fake how? No lender information, no loan numbers, just templates. The room went very still. This wasn't desperation. It was planning. Calculated withdrawals just under reporting thresholds. Fabricated documents. Months of quiet execution. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. I can't live in that house knowing what paid for it. Grandma and I exchanged a look. What are you saying? I asked. He swallowed. I'm selling it. The air shifted. Because if he did that, everything would change. And what happened next didn't just affect my parents. It determined whether this story ended in total collapse, or something no one saw coming. If someone you loved benefited from a lie, would you expect them to give it up? Or would you assume they'd protect themselves?
Ethan listed the house the following Monday. No drama, no announcement, just paperwork. 6 weeks later, it sold. After fees and closing costs, the net amount came to $181,400. Every dollar was transferred directly into a restitution account set up by attorney Margaret Ellis. Clean, documented, untouchable. When Ethan called to tell me it was done, his voice sounded different. Quieter, grounded. My lawyer said I wasn't legally responsible, he admitted. I didn't sign anything. I didn't know. Then why do it? I asked. A long pause. Because I can't build my life on something that was stolen from you. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't tearful. But it was the first time in my life my brother had chosen integrity over comfort. And that mattered. The district attorney filed formal charges 2 weeks later. Both my parents were charged with felony misappropriation of custodial funds. Dad's attorney moved quickly toward a plea agreement. He accepted responsibility, agreed to testify, and his charge was reduced to a misdemeanor in exchange for cooperation and restitution payments covering his portion. 3 years probation. Mandatory financial oversight. He stood in court in a suit that didn't quite fit and said, I failed my daughter. He didn't look at me when he said it. But he said it. Mom didn't follow the same path. She fought. Her defense argued parental discretion, claimed it was a family resource, suggested misunderstanding. Then the prosecution presented the fabricated home equity documents Ethan had turned over. Templates, false lender information, altered statements. The courtroom went silent. That wasn't confusion. That was intent. In the end, she accepted a reduced felony plea. 5 years probation. Community service. Full restitution. Permanent felony record. When the judge asked if she wished to make a statement, she stood there, perfectly composed, and said nothing. No apology. Not to the court. Not to my grandmother. Not to me. That silence hurt more than the theft. But here's the part no one tells you about justice. It doesn't feel like victory. It feels like loss. Neatly documented. I started college on time. Between the restitution funds, the community fundraiser, my grandmother's newly established irrevocable trust, and an academic scholarship the university awarded after the story gained attention, tuition was fully covered. Move-in day arrived. I sat on the edge of my dorm bed.
staring at the cinder block walls and the window overlooking campus. For the first time in months, there was no court date looming, no headlines, no Facebook debates, just me, and a future that was still intact. Grandma June called every Sunday night at 7 p.m., like clockwork. Ethan texted occasionally. Short check-ins. Nothing heavy. My parents? We haven't spoken. 2 months after sentencing, a letter arrived in the mail from my mother. Cream stationery. Her initials embossed at the top. I opened it slowly. I did what I believed was best for our family. I hope one day you'll understand. I read it 3 times, looking for one word. Sorry. It wasn't there. I folded the letter, placed it in my desk drawer, and closed it. Because here's what I've learned. Forgiveness requires accountability, and boundaries require courage. I don't hate my parents. Hate takes too much energy. What I feel is clarity. The people who were supposed to protect me chose not to. So I chose to protect myself. If you're watching this, and you're the reliable one, the one who keeps the peace, the one who figures it out, the one who's told you're strong enough to handle it, I need you to hear this. Strength isn't staying silent. Strength is drawing the line. And sometimes drawing that line costs you the version of your family you thought you had. But it might save your future. So let me ask you something, and answer honestly. If the people who raised you took something that was legally and morally yours, and never once apologized, would you forgive them? Or would you protect your boundary? Because the hardest part isn't going to court. It's deciding what kind of life you're willing to accept afterward. And that decision? That one belongs entirely to you.
It's been 11 months since the court date. Long enough for headlines to disappear. Long enough for people in Briar Glen to find something new to whisper about. Long enough for the word felony to settle into the background of my parents' lives like permanent wallpaper. But some things don't fade that easily. I went home for winter break. Not to my parents' house, to my grandmother's. The blue shutters were chipped from early frost, and the porch swing creaked louder than I remembered. Inside, nothing had changed. Same cinnamon smell, same wind chimes tapping lightly against the back door. Grandma June was at the kitchen table. Of course she was, balancing her checkbook with the same precision she used when she built my future one deposit at a time. "You look taller," she said. "I'm not. Stronger then." That part might have been true. We drank coffee and talked about ordinary things. My classes, her book club, Ethan's new apartment across town, and the extra shifts he'd been picking up. He changed. Not overnight, not dramatically, but slowly. He calls Grandma now without being reminded. He asks questions before signing anything. He sold the SUV and bought something practical. He jokes less about big breaks and talks more about steady work. Sometimes I wonder if losing the house saved him from becoming someone neither of us would have recognized in 10 years. As for my parents, they're still together. Dad makes his restitution payments on time. I know because Margaret sends quarterly updates. He wrote me one short email after sentencing. "I'm trying to do better." I didn't respond, not because I wanted to punish him, but because I'm still deciding what better even means. Mom hasn't written again. She volunteers at a community thrift shop now, part of her court-ordered service hours. I heard from a neighbor that she avoids conversations about finances entirely. Image was always her currency. Now she doesn't spend it as freely. The strange thing is this: I don't wake up angry anymore. For months, I thought anger would be permanent, that betrayal would harden into something sharp I'd carry everywhere. It didn't. It softened into something heavier but calmer. Awareness. I see patterns now. I ask questions. I read contracts carefully. I don't assume love equals protection. And maybe that's the real inheritance I received. Not money, not headlines, not even justice. Discernment. Last week, a girl in my dorm knocked on my door. She'd read the old article online. Her voice shook when she told me her parents had borrowed from her savings account without asking. "Maybe I'm overreacting," she said. I recognized that sentence immediately. It's the anthem of people who've been taught to minimize their own losses. "You're not overreacting," I told her. And for the first time, I realized this story isn't just mine anymore. It's a blueprint, a reminder, a warning. You can love your family and still hold them accountable. You can grieve what they did and still refuse to accept it. You can lose the illusion and keep your future. There's one more thing I haven't told you. The day I left campus to return after winter break, I drove past my parents' house. I didn't stop. But I noticed something. The porch light was on in the middle of the afternoon. It used to mean welcome home. Now it just means electricity is running. And that's okay, because the door I walk through now, the one that leads to my dorm, my classes, my life, opens from my side. And here's what I want to leave you with. If you had to choose between keeping peace and keeping your future, which one would you protect? And if the cost of standing up is losing the version of family you thought you had, would you still do it? Because sometimes the real question isn't whether justice is worth it, it's whether silence is.